For 3 years of marriage, Alexander Shaw had never touched me. I put on a lace nightgown and created fake kiss marks, then took a photo of myself sleeping to send to him. Hey buddy, she's lovely. Why don't you divorce her and let me have her? I guessed when Alex received this anonymous message, he would be disgusted and angry, throwing me away like trash me, who was only a replacement for my sister. I thought this time I could finally get him to divorce me. 1. My sister Rose was on vacation in Europe, celebrating her 3rd wedding anniversary. She asked what gift I wanted, and I asked for an anonymous phone card from abroad. Holding the phone card in an empty hotel room, I let out a tired breath. Then I put on the thin lace nightgown I bought specially for this plan. In front of the mirror, I created marks on my neck and collarbone that looked like passionate kisses. The marks dotted my skin, as if left by a possessive man overcome with desire. One strap of the nightgown was torn, as if by a man's hand. Finally, I smudged my carefully applied lipstick in front of the mirror. Then I sat on the bed, making the other side look like someone had slept there. I closed my eyes. Camera on self-timer, set to capture. 3, 2, 1. In the photo, the woman looked like she had just shared an intimate moment, sleeping deeply without a care. I stared at it for a long time. My mind wandered to Alex's notorious reputation in the business world. The charming snake. The ruthless businessman who showed no mercy. But what I knew best was his cold, emotionless face. Though handsome, all his affection was only for my sister. I prepared for the worst. Even if Alex had no feelings for me, a man would struggle to forgive such betrayal. He might seek revenge. But in the end, he would divorce me in disgust and anger. That's all I wanted, divorce. I closed my eyes briefly and pressed send. On my phone screen, that casual message. Hey buddy, she's lovely. Why don't you divorce her and let me have her? Along with the photo. Sent successfully. 2. Less than 2 seconds. I got a reply. Alex, who are you? I changed clothes slowly, almost playfully drawing out the response time. Was he about to explode with anger, wanting to tear the anonymous sender apart? Him, the golden boy, perfect since childhood, now having his emotions controlled by someone like me, someone he usually held in the palm of his hand. 3 years of silence and pain, finally getting a moment of satisfaction today. After changing into regular clothes, Alex had sent 2 more messages. Don't use such poor AI face swapping. Tell me your purpose. I advise you to confess everything yourself, so I might leave you in one piece. I laughed softly. Mr. Shaw, want to know if it's AI? Just ask your wife. The marks on my darling's neck won't fade so quickly. I dared to say this because I knew Alex was abroad negotiating an important deal. He couldn't return for at least 2 weeks. The next moment, my own phone suddenly rang. I jumped in surprise. The phone kept ringing. It was Alex calling. I pressed my lips together, staring at the phone until it stopped. But quickly, the screen lit up again, Alex persistently calling. I understood this time, he was truly angry. My heart raced, feeling like I was walking a tightrope in an extremely dangerous game. I sent, Mr. Shaw, stop calling. Your wife's tired after our time together, she's sleeping. The calls finally stopped. My phone fell into dead silence. Using the anonymous phone card I sent, I didn't mean to break you up, Mr. Shaw. Your wife and I are truly in love. Be generous, divorce her soon, and let her be with me. Otherwise, when people hear about your shame, you'll lose face. Alex never replied. 3. Nervously, I threw the torn lace nightgown in the trash, checked out of the hotel, and returned to the mansion. The housekeepers were cleaning. Everything was perfectly normal, peaceful, as if nothing had happened. I washed up and went to bed. At dawn, when the sky was turning white, I hazily heard the roar of an engine and the sharp screech of brakes outside. When I realized what was happening and opened my eyes in panic, someone knocked on my bedroom door. Jasmine, open the door. That voice was ice cold, forcefully controlled to stay steady, only revealing a hint of anxious unrest. I was instantly awake, as if doused with cold water, my whole body freezing. It was Alex. 3. I panicked. How could he be back? To him, I was just an insignificant replacement. The knocking sounded again, still 3 times, extremely controlled. His words came faster. Jasmine, I want to see you. I sat up, trying not to panic, not to give myself away. Taking a deep breath, I spoke sleepily while pretending to be calm. Mr. Shaw, I need to use the bathroom and shower. Please wait. I rushed into the bathroom, turned on the shower, then stared at the marks on my neck. These were marks I'd made myself yesterday using a bottle, pressing hard for authenticity. Forget fading, even makeup couldn't hide them. But I had to try to cover them. Because a cheater's first reaction would be to lie and hide. Alex was clever. I had to play my part perfectly. I wet my hair to look freshly showered, then changed into a high-necked black dress that covered even my arms. I carefully put a band-aid over the half-visible mark peeking above the neckline. In the mirror, I practiced looking nervous while trying to act calm. Disgusting enough, right? Alex would surely be repulsed and demand a divorce. Tell me to get out. I opened the door. Alex sat on the sofa, brows furrowed, eyes closed in thought. His face was pale, with light stubble on his chin. He'd forgotten his watch, and his suit's cufflinks were missing. One hand gripped his phone tightly, the other hung over the sofa arm, knuckles baring for deep cuts. As if he'd struck something repeatedly. But he didn't seem to care, hadn't even bandaged them. Mr. Shaw, why are you back? Alex opened his eyes to look at me, pupils dark as night. He pushed himself up from the sofa. The man who had been so urgent moments ago now moved incredibly slowly toward me. I instinctively stepped back, but Alex grabbed my arm and pulled me back. He looked down at my neck, his pupils contracting. I forced a smile and said, "Did something happen?" He didn't answer, just raised two cold fingers to hover over the band-aid, as if about to roughly tear it off along with all my lies, then furiously, humiliatingly tear up our fake marriage contract. My body started trembling, eyes closed waiting to be exposed. But his fingers only rested lightly on the band-aid. Alex calmly asked, "What happened here?" I deliberately avoided his gaze, just got scratched by a book page yesterday. A book page? Alex blinked very slowly. What were you doing last night? His fingertips slipped under my collar. One pull would reveal the marks hidden beneath. I swallowed. I went out for a hair treatment last night. Alex's breathing became heavy. He stared at me expressionlessly. For a moment, I had the strange feeling he would tear me apart. His fingers tightened on my collar. Following his pull, I stumbled, almost falling into his arms. I quickly raised my arms to block his chest. His hand wrapped around my waist like an iron band, gradually tightening, as if channeling his restrained anger. I couldn't match his strength, my resisting arms growing weak. Alex moved closer inch by inch. Mr. Shaw, don't. I trembled, though I didn't know what he planned to do. Instinct told me it would be dangerous. My mind went blank, voice shaking as I begged randomly. After 3 or 4 seconds, he slowly withdrew his fingers, clenching them into a fist, his face turning ashen, lips pressed tight. I realized what I'd been saying. "I'm scared, don't touch me, please. I'll assign you 2 personal bodyguards. They'll follow you when you go out, ensuring your safety," Alex announced flatly. Then he turned and left without hesitation. Only when I heard the familiar engine sound outside did I snap out of my daze. He wasn't going to investigate. How could this be possible? 4. I was watched very closely, with almost no chance to use that phone to make contact. Alex, far away abroad, somehow finished his business trip in just 5 days this time, rushing back home. After he returned, the surveillance on me loosened quite a bit, and I finally had another chance to pick up the phone. I sent a message using the anonymous phone card. "Come on, man, you're not playing fair. If she cheated, just get divorced. Why lock your wife up?" Alex replied quickly, "She didn't cheat. I trust her. Jasmine isn't the type of person who would do these things." I stared at this message in shock. What did he mean? Though I indeed couldn't bring myself to actually find someone to have an affair with, which is why I chose this plan instead. But how would Alex know so well what kind of person I am? He had always been so cold to me. I gathered all my courage, throwing caution to the wind, adding fuel to the fire. "Mr. Shaw, you don't know your wife better than I do. She has 3 birthmarks on her ribs, near her belly button, and every time I trace them with my finger, connecting them in a line, she trembles with excitement. But you're her husband of 3 years, you must know this already, right?" The last line was dripping with sarcasm, because in these 3 years, Alex had never touched me. Bang! Just after I sent it, a huge crash came from upstairs. The sound came from Alex's study. I jumped, quickly hiding the spare phone nervously. The crashing sound rang out several more times. Then, I heard Alex coming downstairs. He tiredly instructed the housekeeper, "Get someone to clean up, the computer needs to be replaced." Footsteps approached. I trembled in fear, vaguely feeling I would be the next thing he tore apart. I fled under the covers, pretending to sleep. The lock on my door had mysteriously broken since his return. Alex gently turned the handle, and seeing the darkness in the bedroom, he didn't speak. In the dead silence, his heavy breathing and unsettled heartbeat were extremely clear, so much that I wondered if Alex could also hear my racing heart. He came closer and closer. I kept my eyes tightly shut. Alex didn't shake me awake, didn't grab my neck in fury demanding an explanation. He stood by my bed. Even with my eyes closed, I could feel a sharp, burning gaze fixed on my stomach, as if debating whether to check. "Don't shake, keep breathing steady, keep acting." I stayed completely still. Suddenly I felt the mattress sink beside me. Alex slowly lay down next to me. That cold yet burning gaze remained fixed on me. I gritted my teeth. You have to enter the tiger's den to catch the tiger. I'll provoke him more. As if lost in a sweet dream, I turned hazily and nuzzled my head toward his chest. Alex paused, that fierce gaze suddenly softening. Honey, I mumbled. Alex stiffened for a moment. I persistently wrapped my arms around him, using the sweetest voice of my life. Honey, hold me. I thought he would get angry, even wake me with a slap, because I had never called him honey before he knew I was calling someone else. But he stared at me hard, gripping my arms tightly, trembling with anger, but when he heard my muffled whimper, he forced himself to loosen his grip. Alex held the back of my head, letting me hold him tighter. He kissed my hair. Then he stroked my back up and down with his palm, in an awkward but gentle soothing motion. He said softly, yes, honey's holding you. I froze. His eerily calm behavior was utterly crazy. Alex was an exceptionally smart person. He should have understood I was cheating from the first message, and to avoid scandal, he should have quickly drafted divorce papers, forcing me to leave with nothing. But instead, he denied it again and again, frantically, obsessively denying I had been with someone else. Now he was even hypnotizing himself, stealing sweet words meant for another. What was he doing? Alex thought I stopped mumbling because I had fallen into deeper sleep. Silently, he lifted the blanket, his finger touching my ribs, then gently sliding down along the birthmarks. One light touch, his fingertip cool. So quick I barely had time to react before I curled up, shaking uncontrollably. I had made up that text message, not even knowing myself that having my birthmarks touched would feel like an electric current. I trembled awkwardly, unable to keep pretending, immediately wanting to turn away. Alex stopped his caressing, completely enveloping me in his arms, forcing me to face him. Powerful, secure, like interlocked hearts, so tight I could feel his heartbeat beneath his ribs against my chest. Chaotic, wild, strong. He whispered, you are mine, I am yours. He had truly gone mad, completely abandoning all rational, calm logic and weighing of consequences, becoming a wild animal. Savage, direct, possessively claiming without compromise. As if I had been carried to his den, only able to belong to him. Alex had objectified me, objectified himself. We weren't humans with fragile bodies and sensitive souls, but two lifeless iron locks. With a click, locked together. Stubbornly believing I was his, he was mine. He had really gone crazy. I opened my eyes in the darkness, looking at Alex's sleeping face with complex emotions from between his burning chest and arms, until my eyelids grew heavy and I fell into dreams. In the dream, 3 years ago, I was crying and begging Alex to let me go. He watched me coldly, until I shouted, I don't owe you anything, you have no right to lock me up. Only then did he step back, staying silent for a full minute before looking up. You do owe me. Your sister ran away and ruined our engagement, so you have to repay me for life. I won't let you go. Back then, I collapsed on the ground, touching my face so similar to my sister's, finally understanding he would never let me go because he saw me as my sister's replacement. 3 years passed like this, bitter and unbearable. When I opened my eyes, Alex was already gone. The bed beside me was neat and clean, as if no one had ever been there. 5. I received Alex's reply. Do you have other photos and videos of her? I responded, brother, I may be romantic but I'm not crude. I don't take inappropriate photos of women. Is this how you deceived her with your smooth talk? She's so young, you beast. I was confused by his insults. We're truly in love. Besides, how am I young? I'm 23, almost done with my master's degree. Alex, leave her. Just tell me how much money you want. I was furious. I told you, we're truly in love. How about you leave her and I'll name my price. Alex, you don't deserve her love. I didn't like hearing that. Even as a I was quite excellent, thank you very much. Taking it further, I risked bad karma by saving and sending Alex some fitness model photos. I'm well equipped, don't worry, your wife is very satisfied. This time, I didn't hear anything being smashed. After a second, Alex, sitting in the living room, suddenly let out a mocking, disdainful cold laugh. Heh. Not impressive. Though I hadn't seen others in person, the photos should be quite impressive, right? What's he laughing at? Alex quickly sent new messages. One glance made my hair stand on end. Last month on the 27th you were someone for you went to Barcelona and bought a phone card, right? Alex, did you really think I couldn't find out who you are just because you used an anonymous phone card? Alex, I will check every single detail as carefully as peeling your skin. You better hope you went to Barcelona yourself. Otherwise, having someone buy and mail it back to China means there's an address. Alex, you'd better sleep with your eyes open, buddy. The last two words were pure, extreme mockery. I shot back defiantly, of course I keep my eyes open while sleeping to see more of your wife. Crash. Outside, Alex smashed another cup. Alex, she's just playing with you. I gritted my teeth. Oh really? Why don't you look at the changes in your wife lately? I turned off the phone, instantly calming down. Changes? What changes would someone have when they found a lover? I started working out. Every early morning, I would do 40 minutes of strength training plus 15 minutes of cardio at the gym. Within 2 days, the housekeeper reluctantly said the gym was broken. I said it was fine, I'd use whichever equipment still worked. He said everything was broken. Even the gym's door lock was broken and wouldn't open. Frustrated, I started doing yoga and exercises in the living room. For some reason, Alex had been working from home lately, stubbornly seated on the living room sofa. He stared at his computer, suddenly asking, "Why did you start exercising recently?" It was the perfect opening. I turned away. I'm not thin enough. On TV, the fitness instructor bent down, touching toes, starting to stretch. I copied the movements. Alex's throat moved, his voice rough. "You're thin enough." Breathing heavily, I said, "I want to exercise, having toned abs is pretty." Alex asked quickly, "Who said that?" I paused, somehow hesitating whether to tear down this paper-thin facade. Even though this was what I'd been hoping for. Yet instinctively, like someone really having an affair, I wanted to hide everything desperately. I made excuses to myself, probably because the atmosphere right now was too nice, too unlike us. Alex and I were always hurried, always distant, he busy with work, me busy enduring his work. We'd never been like this before, sitting together, each doing our own thing, yet occasionally exchanging words, like a real married couple. While I was confused by my own feelings, Alex very lightly and quickly gave up questioning. "Never mind, it's nothing." He'd so casually given up the chance to uncover the truth. In that moment, I had a strange feeling. We seemed to have an unspoken understanding, carefully protecting that fragile red thread connecting our wrists. But a few minutes later, when I went to the bedroom to change clothes, I saw Alex's new message. The Alex who'd been calmly seated on the sofa had, during one of my turns, forcefully typed and sent to that anonymous person. "Beast, I want you dead." 6. The TV broke. 2 other programs worked fine, but it couldn't play fitness videos anymore. The housekeeper reluctantly informed me. Every morning at 8, they needed to vacuum the whole house, so I couldn't exercise in the living room anymore. I took a deep breath, started learning to bake. The housekeeper curiously asked why. I smiled and said, "It makes me happy to see others eat things I made myself." Alex stood at the stairs with a dark expression, his head slowly turning to follow my movements between the kitchen island and stove. I ate the burnt cookies myself, gave 2 good ones to the curious housekeeper. The rest I packed in a paper bag tied with a ribbon. Baking by hand should prove I had someone outside, and I was serious about him. I went back to my room to get dressed. "Mr. Shaw, I have a group meeting to attend for a while." Alex was leaning on the kitchen island, expressionlessly staring at the empty baking tray. He looked up at me. Was he going to explode? Was he going to announce divorce? My heart was in my throat, but he just raised an eyebrow slightly, even showing a cold, wicked smile. "All right, go ahead." Then left. I walked over and froze. The bag of cookies I'd left on the table was completely gone. Even the burnt ones I hadn't finished were gone. Alex. I could have shared them with my professor and classmates, and he threw them all away. I was furiously powerless. Behind his back, I sent rapid messages. "Your wife says you've been angry at home lately. She's very scared, misses me every night, and even cried." "Mr. Shaw, why won't you divorce yet? What's the point of forcing this connection? Is winning and losing so important? She doesn't owe you anything. Your marriage was just a business arrangement for power and money. You already got what you wanted. Why won't you let her go?" "Alex," she cried. I stared at this message blankly, not knowing how to respond. "Is that the point? The point is divorce." Alex sent a second message. "You live in Ning'an District too." Cold sweat broke out. How did he find that out? But before I could deny it, Alex said, "I'm close to finding you, you low-life dog." I frantically turned off my phone. Cold sweat poured out. My time was running out. I had to take a risk, couldn't keep testing the waters like this. 7. I trembled, holding the divorce agreement I'd drafted, putting it in my bag. Then I put on my shortest skirt and high heels, did my makeup, sprayed perfume, and opened the door. "I'm going out for a while." Alex silently watched me. This seemed to be the first time in days we'd looked at each other so long and carefully. The living room light cast shadows on his cheekbones. He seemed thinner, his eyes streaked with red. He looked like a candle held over fire, both energetic and clear-headed, both pale and striking. How long had he been sitting in the living room? Where are you going? He asked flatly. Friend's house. Which friend? Alex's gaze fixed on my short skirt, his expression growing darker. You don't know them. He smiled, silently laughing until his eyes crinkled, then shook his head. Tell me, then I'll know them. Mr. Shaw, our marriage is just a transaction. When we married, you agreed we wouldn't interfere in each other's private lives. He slowly stood up, his 6 feet 2 inches frame with broad shoulders and narrow waist naturally made for suits. I just realized he wasn't wearing a suit today, but a very fitted black sweater. The fabric clung to his chest. He looked down at me, slowly removing his blue light glasses, tossing them onto the sofa. Keep going, Jasmine. Let me count how many more hurtful words you have for me. I trembled and stepped back but spoke defiantly. Also, I don't owe you anything. My sister's back in the country. If she knew how you treated me, she'd like you even less. This seemed to work. Alex frowned slightly and quickly. What? I swallowed. I'm leaving. Not just leaving, I want a divorce. Without thinking, I threw down the divorce agreement and ran for the door. Those words were finally said, ending all my days of anxiety. I instantly felt a sense of lightness and relief, like finally getting on a roller coaster after waiting in a long line. After the relief came confused tension and fear. I rushed to the door, clutching the handle like escaping for my life, just opened it halfway. Bang! Alex slammed the door shut with one hand. He pinned down both my hands. You dare. Alex looked at me, his expression not fierce at all, even somewhat calm. But his eyes were extremely deep, his breathing becoming uncontrollably chaotic. I gritted my teeth. Mr. Shaw, I have someone else. Wake up. He clenched his jaw, I could see his temple veins pulsing. He seemed about to faint from anger, his knees locking my legs, knee against the door, so angry he could barely stand, yet his hands still gripped mine tightly to prevent me opening the door. His whole body wrapped around me like a snake. Those cold, unfeeling lips couldn't say any crude words, nor any sweet pleading ones. Could only grit out again, you dare. My back against his chest felt burning hot, that heat like electricity flowing down through my bones and blood. My mind went blank, I couldn't even control my breathing, let alone think rationally. The light was too bright, I couldn't help but notice that striking face, and our bodies pressed forcefully together. Shaking, I tried to speak, meant to say something harsh and forcing, but my voice betrayed me before I could. Soft, almost choking, unconsciously saying, you don't even love me. Breathing heavily, I said quietly, Alex, please, let's divorce. You don't love me, someone else will love me. Alex's breathing stopped for a moment, his whole body stiff, jaw clenched tight, seeming to want to say something but unable to open his mouth. His body, weak from panic, gradually regained strength as he straightened up, hand against the door. Just as I reached for the handle again, he suddenly picked me up. What are you doing? I struggled in panic. Alex showed no expression as he let me kick, kissed me hard, and while walking, deliberately stepped on the divorce agreement. Divorce. Only if I'm dead. I cried angrily, what right do you have to treat me like this? Why won't you be reasonable? Alex carried me to the bed. He said, because we're married, and can only be entangled with each other for life. I deliberately provoked him, I like him. I slept with him. The final facade torn down, but without the expected earth-shattering reaction. He gently removed his clothes. His lips were red from my bites, making his face look even paler, more striking. His muscle lines were perfectly sculpted, even more beautiful than the photo I'd sent. He looked down at me, so what? I froze. What? Alex said expressionlessly, you're young, it's normal to be curious, and want to experiment. I couldn't believe it. He looked down at me, removing the last layer. My gaze involuntarily fell to a certain place. Suddenly I understood why Alex had only laughed coldly at those 2 provocative photos. He indeed had the right to be disdainful. Alex gently held my wrist, leaning down. I smelled his masculine scent. Gone were all those layers of formal, restrictive suits. Gone was his endless work and cold words. For the first time, I realized something obvious. Alex was a man full of dominance. I felt my tongue go weak, unable to speak any rebuttals. All my senses were focused on the man before me. He looked at me calmly, Jasmine, you're just hungry. Running away from home for junk food is childish. He touched my forehead, gently but forcefully, making me look up. Another long kiss. I could barely breathe, almost forgetting my original purpose. Alex's hand wrapped around my neck, not hard, slightly breathtaking. He looked down at me, saying softly, but wanting to leave me for trash, that won't do. When you do wrong things, you need punishment. My whole body trembled slightly, voice shaking, as if hypnotized, only able to follow his words. How will you punish me? Those 3 birthmarks were traced again. I trembled and begged. Alex watched quietly. After my second unsuccessful plea, tears in my eyes, he sighed, forgiving all my wrongs as he kissed me, wanting to go deeper. Ding dong, ding dong, ding dong. The doorbell rang. Alex pretended not to hear, wanting to continue. Soon, there was knocking on the bedroom door. Jasmine, it's your sister. Mr. Shaw, are you there too? My sister's voice came through, concerned and urgent. Alex gripped the sheets tightly, taking a deep breath, his expression terrifyingly dark. He closed his eyes, trying hard to calm down. Was he so excited because he was seeing his true love? I smiled bitterly in silence. Somehow, my heart that had died 3 years ago painfully came alive again, torturing itself. Maybe because Alex's possessive behavior lately had given me some groundless fantasies. Jasmine. Sister knocked on the door harder, then started turning the handle when no one answered. My heart jumped. My bedroom lock had been broken. Don't open the door. Wait in the living room, we'll be right there, Alex said, covering me with the blanket. All right. 8. I got properly dressed and sat next to my sister. Feeling strangely guilty, Alex sat alone on the side sofa, fingers irritably tapping the armrest, taking deep breaths every few seconds to calm himself. Sister, why are you back? My sister coughed, seeming to find these words difficult, hesitantly speaking. Actually, I didn't go for the 3rd wedding anniversary, I was traveling alone to clear my mind. What? I was stunned. Rose hesitated. Miss Zhao, please just say what you need to say. Alex clenched his fists. My sister wavered. Jasmine, I'm actually divorced. I looked at her, instantly understanding why she came. Rose put the dirty, stepped-on divorce agreement on the table. I was hesitant, but seeing this agreement, I felt I should say something. She looked at Alex. Mr. Shaw, when I ran away back then, I wronged you. I can marry you now as compensation. Please let my sister go. My heart skipped a beat. This should be wonderful news. Alex, who refused to divorce me, would naturally give up a replacement when faced with the original. But why do I feel so? I watched them, Alex and Rose, silently looking at each other. I should be happy, shouldn't I? I lowered my head, hiding all my expressions. After a long silence, Alex spoke. What? Rose, please divorce my sister. Alex, no need. I raised my head in disbelief. He said expressionlessly, having both sisters marry me in turn. If people found out, I'd be laughed at. Rose, I have foreign citizenship now, still using my married name, so don't worry. As long as I'm not seen in public, no one will connect me with my sister. Alex. Rose gently pushed the divorce agreement over. Mr. Shaw, please sign. I'll repay what I owe you. Stop torturing my sister. Alex. Torture? He laughed from anger, leaning forward, seeming lately to have taken too much, giving him a sense of reckless madness. He glared at Rose with cold eyes. How did I torture her? Why don't you ask your dear sister who's really torturing whom? He clenched his jaw, cheeks bulging, utterly confused. Why? Why does everyone keep trying to make us divorce? Yes, I forced her to marry me. I created this in myself. Whatever she does to me, I accept. But you, who are you to? He pressed his lips tight, seeming to remember she was my sister, using his last bit of reason to hold back harsher words. Rose was stunned. I was stunned too. Alex suddenly seemed to realize he'd let something slip, his eyes showing a moment of hesitation before quickly covering it up. But what did he mean by forcing me to marry him? 3 years ago, it was clearly an arranged marriage between the Zhao and Shaw families. My father saw potential in the rising business star Alex Shaw, didn't mind his humble background, and wanted to marry my sister to him. But sister unexpectedly met a blue-eyed blonde violinist from abroad and resolutely eloped. I was still in school, forced to marry Alex at the minimum legal age of 20. What did he mean by forcing? Rose mumbled. So Ian was arranged by you back then. No wonder it was so coincidental, meeting him everywhere I went. I thought it was fate. Alex suddenly stood up, his expression tense. Enough, stop talking. Rose stood up too, her eyes blazing. So you never liked me at all. You deliberately chose someone my ideal type to approach me. I don't owe you anything. The Zhao family doesn't owe you. Shut up. Alex's voice trembled, unusually weak, unable to cover Rose's cold, merciless voice. My sister owes you nothing. Alex's chest heaved violently, weak as if punched. Like a snail stripped of its shell, exposed to the burning sun, pale to the point of suffocation. That's right, my sister doesn't owe you. The business contract from the arranged marriage has been fulfilled. If she wants to leave, what right do you have to force her to stay? Rose accused repeatedly, actually making the usually dominant businessman unable to argue back. Alex trembled, clenching his fists. I just won't allow it. His eyes reddened, glaring at Rose, not daring to look at me for a moment. I just won't allow it. He'd just called me childish, but now he was acting more like a stubborn child than anyone. My sister angrily stood in front of me like a protective mother bull, seeming ready to charge at him. You really think having money means everyone has to revolve around you? My sister is a living person, not a tool for you to control. Alex Shaw, play your business games all you want, but why bully a college student? He stood pale-faced, mouth open. I wanted to say he hadn't bullied me, he just never looked at me, never touched me, never loved me, making me so sad. Rose got increasingly angry. Look how she's living. Her bedroom door's been broken so long, with all your wealth you couldn't fix it. You even stepped on her divorce agreement. Have you ever treated her like a wife? Have you ever been good to her? Poor Jasmine, even having to ask me to buy her a phone card. Instantly, cold sweat broke out on my back, hair standing on end. Only 2 words in my mind. It's over. 9. Alex's previously vulnerable expression instantly froze. His pupils contracted as he looked up. What did you say? I frantically grabbed Rose's arm. Please, please, please stop talking, my dear sister. Rose looked at me puzzled, then glared like I was a cowardly child. What? Mr. Shaw is pretending to care now. My little sister, everyone says she married into wealth to be a rich wife, but when I went to Barcelona and asked what she wanted, she only asked for a phone card, so pitiful, as if afraid to ask for more. It's not like that. My whole body trembled, not daring to look at Alex's face. The silence in the room lasted so long it became torturous. Rose finally noticed something was wrong. What is it? What's wrong with the phone card? Alex actually laughed, a short burst, nothing. His voice got lower and lower. I felt a burning gaze fixed on me, as if trying to pierce through me, making my skin tingle. He said softly, it's all my fault, sister, I'm sorry. Suddenly, all his anger was gone. He even became so well-mannered that he called Rose sister and apologized. You stop acting like this, it's so fake. Rose was taken aback too. Alex, yes, it's all my fault. But sister, my wife and I need to talk about some things privately, please give us some space. Half gently, half firmly, he persuaded Rose to leave. The moment the door closed, I felt like I could sense my doom approaching. The click of the lock was like a starting gun. I didn't think about anything else, just rushed upstairs, trying to hide in his room. I swear, at first I only thought about his room having a lock. I didn't have time to think about there being a bed too. But Alex was faster. Before I could close the door, he pushed it open, looking down at me. Closed the door, locked it, one-handedly took off the sweater he'd barely worn. Step by step backed me up to the bed. I cried, I'm sorry. Alex, too late. I begged, I won't ask for divorce anymore. After what just happened, anyone would understand he hadn't seen me as a replacement. He might even like me a little. I thought maybe I could observe more before deciding about divorce. Alex nodded, don't even think about it. He pushed me to lie on the bed, eyes locked on me, kissing my neck like a little beast seeking revenge. Kiss marks, huh? Calling me buddy, asking me to give you my wife, huh? Pretty brave there, buddy. He kissed me, his long-held jealousy finally exploding, so strong it turned into hurt. However, he was always so serious that when emotions did come, he habitually tried to control them forcefully, until he'd kissed me for a long time, as if drawing enough strength from me. Then I finally heard him say softly, it's not that I don't love you, I was just afraid if I said it, you would say you don't love me. Alex held me tight. After hesitating for a long time, I carefully reached out to hug him back. In that moment, his spine trembled with excitement. After a while, he asked quietly, Jasmine, can you say it again? That honey, hold me. I couldn't stand it anymore, go away. Alex naturally didn't leave, instead came closer, super close. This time, no doorbell interrupted. I watched as he covered all the places where I'd faked kiss marks with real ones. Only then did I realize this guy had been so jealous. He'd looked at that photo again and again until it was burned into his mind. The curtains floated in the wind. The sun set, then rose again. In the morning light, I hazily looked up. Hidden in the corner of his desk was the bag of cookies I thought I'd lost.